What is going on, Optimistic Fan Club? Thank you for tuning back in. Had a big episode last week, and we're following it up really quick with this one. Usually the Tuesday episodes are posted there on Patreon, but as I just announced to all the Patreon paid subscribers over there, we're cutting things, we're holding things off. We're just going to be pumping everything out on YouTube for now, and in the meantime, I'm going to be building our own platform, own website where we can host all the articles, exclusive podcasts, all that stuff. So it's all coming at you for free. And eventually when the time comes, we will announce that probably for the start of the season, but it's going to be in depth. It's going to be a big build out because, you know, this podcast is sponsored by nobody. If you want to support in the meantime, buy a shirt from pumpkinhead.shop. That's my little side company that I got going on. And you cannot buy this hat, unfortunately. It is one of one, but maybe if enough people like it, we can get something like that going. But with all of that being said, let's get into things here. So today we're going to be talking about why it is such a bad idea for one of these rookie quarterbacks, either Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel, to start week one, because I'm seeing a lot of that in the comments on the latest episode of why people think that Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel, mostly Shedeur, should be starting week one. I think it's a terrible idea. We're going to get into that. Then we're also going to be diving into the CU Aunties. I didn't even realize that that was a real thing. I was saying it tongue in cheek. That's going to be real quick. Just going to gloss over that because that's hilarious. I didn't realize it was actually a real thing. Brock Purdy's contract, what it kind of means for the Browns, because I think they're in a similar situation, and just that philosophy in general of when do you sign a quarterback to not a max deal, but a big deal like Purdy just got, and how does that affect a team going forward? Like, what are the classifications of quarterback that you need to be in to justify a contract like that? And then we're going to talk about Caleb Williams' latest comments, how that guy continues to sort of shoot himself in the foot, but why, when you have the talent around you, or not around you, but within you, that a lot of those things get glossed over, and when they don't. And then finally, a little dark horse NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year bet that I think is pretty solid. Not a bet as in betting advice, just something that I might sprinkle a little something on. Because remember, we do not advertise for anyone, especially not gambling companies. Those people are bad. With all that said, let's get into this. So, like I said last week, I was really going in with the idea, like, I think that Shedeur Sanders is going to get his first start week 7. And that isn't just me being like, I think that that's when it's going to happen, or that's when one of the veteran quarterbacks who's starting over him is going to get injured, and that's when he's going to get his opportunity. I'm not saying it like this. This is my strategy. If I'm Kevin Stefanski, if I'm Andrew Berry, if I'm running this team, I'm not letting one of my rookie quarterbacks start until week 7. That's what I was saying last week. You get the Dolphins, you get through the teeth of your schedule, and you can move forward understanding that the worst is out of the way and you're still playing meaningful football games. And I got a lot of pushback being like, no, the fans want to see Shedeur start week 1. The fans want to see one of these rookies start week 1. They need to play meaningful games right away because we have to evaluate whether or not we're going to draft another quarterback the following season in 2026 when the Browns have 2 first-round picks. But here's the problem with that. I'm going to list some quarterbacks here. Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Anthony Richardson. What is the common thread between these guys? They started very early on in their NFL careers, most of them at week 1. Justin Fields was week 3. And they all got sacked a lot. And they all had really, really bad rookie years. And some of them, their careers will probably never rebound. Others, that story's still being written. But the general premise is that these guys were thrown to the wolves. They were put in positions where they had to start playing, and they might have been doing it behind offensive lines that weren't that good. Hence why those teams were picking at the top of the draft when these top draft picks were taken. Like, look at the situation of Bryce Young, right? So Bryce Young was sacked 62 times. second most in 2023 as a rookie quarterback. The following year, he goes through the cycle, which was last season, goes through the cycles of getting benched for Andy Dalton at one point. And ultimately, people thought his career was over. People were talking about him like he might be one of the biggest draft busts ever, especially considering what the Panthers gave up to go and get him at number one, and the fact that they wound up missing out on Caleb Williams the following year. You have all of that going on, and all of that weighs on a player's mind as the season goes on. You're not just hearing like, oh, you played bad. It's like, we wasted the number one pick, because the criticism that you receive is all relative to where you were taken in the draft, right? So Bryce Young, the fact that he wound up re-winning the starting job and finished the season as strongly as he did last year is a testament to like who he is mentally, to his constitution, to like what his mental makeup is. But also too, to Dave Canales, the head coach who took over for Frank Reich after that disastrous season in Bryce's rookie year. But also Andy Dalton, a really solid, steady veteran who was able to move in and take on the brunt when Bryce Young was reeling, because that was a strategic move. It was like pulling a pitcher before he lets up the big one and completely loses his confidence. They went to the bullpen, they bring in this guy, say, you take a little bit of a break and we're going to come back to you. And credit to the Panthers. They did that and they didn't give up on Bryce Young. And clearly Dave Canales, the Panthers head coach, really spoke that to Bryce Young. And I think Andy Dalton was probably that kind of guy too. Like ultra high character, older guy, has been a journeyman, but had 10 really good, solid years in Cincinnati. Had to deal with his own levels of dysfunction as an organization and shortcomings and failures. So for Bryce Young to be able to sit behind and then come back out and have a productive season the way he did is fantastic. But that is the outlier. Usually what you wind up getting is like what you got with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson comes out, he's sacked 44 times over 13 games. He sprains his PCL. And this was the second Jets quarterback in just a few years to go through a similar thing. Sam Darnold starts week 1. He's sacked 30 times over 13 games. He has a right foot sprain at one point, misses 3 games in the season. And with both these Jets quarterbacks, they follow up the next few seasons just continuing to be futile. And a lot of this is based on the fact that their offensive lines were not right. They did not have the weapons around them to be successful. They didn't have the offensive coaching to lead these guys down the right path and keep instilling that confidence in them, like guys who specialize in working with young quarterbacks. And that's really tough. It's like, especially if you're a newer head coach, like the Jets have been on that head coaching carousel over the past few years. Like I forgot to do my research on that, but Sam Darnold, I'm pretty sure was he with Adam Gase at one point? It's like there is so much dysfunction around, and then you bring in a rookie quarterback and you try and inject them so they can have success. But it's like you are so wrapped up and busy in running a team, you can't be that ultimate resource. You're just relying on your quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator to really guide this guy. And that can become very tough on a young player. And like I said, it's like if you don't have the organizational structure or the mental fortitude as an individual, your career could just be done and in the dirt right then and there. Because we all assume that if you're a football player and you're in the NFL, you have the mentality of Tom Brady or Ray Lewis or Ed Reed or Peyton Manning or Jerry Rice. It's like we associate what it means to be in the NFL with those guys, when the reality is that 95% of the people don't have that killer instinct. They're a victim to their circumstances. That doesn't mean that they're victims in the sense that they're not going to work hard. They're not going to do everything they can to be successful on their own. But they don't have the eraser mentality. And being an eraser is someone who elevates and uplifts everyone around them, whether you're a young defensive player like a linebacker who steps in and just raises the bar, And it doesn't matter what's around you. You're still going to be successful. You're still going to have 13 tackles a game, or like a quarterback. Like I always go back to the most recent is like Joe Burrow, like what Joe Burrow did in 2021. And I know people go, oh, he had T. Higgins and he has Jamar Chase. Those guys are fantastic receivers without a doubt, but he was still doing it with a very young head coach. I think a second or third year head coach in Zach Taylor. And Jamar Chase was a rookie and T. Higgins was a rookie or in a second year when they went to the Super Bowl. Like Joe Burrow really did that and did it with a bad offensive line and like a so-so defense. That to me, that is like the elite. Like that is an eraser. That is a guy who is going to be a Hall of Famer without a doubt one day, as long as his health holds up, right? But it's like most people are not that. And most young quarterbacks are not that. So we can't treat them this way just because they were taken with a high draft pick. A lot of people you got to nurture and get them through to a certain point before their confidence can really kick in. And like I mentioned, just one more example, Anthony Richardson, a guy who clearly had a lot of limitations as a quarterback. I think he only started 13 or 14 games from high school to the pros because of the COVID era in high school and just working his way up the roster at Florida. That might be wrong. And again, I do this without any producer. So if I'm wrong, lock me up. However, I'm doing my best over here. And if you see me turn into my side, it's because I write all this out. I don't just jump on here and start yapping. There's a lot of thought that goes into this, people. So appreciate it. But Anthony Richardson steps in, clearly a lot of questions, a lot of limitations, but sky high potential. Goes in, people think Shane Steichen, okay, like good young offensive head coach. This should work. He should be able to figure it out. He did it with Jalen Hurts in Philly. But again, we go back to the example of Philly. It's like Philly had a ton of talent around Jalen Hurts. They had a great run game. They had a fantastic offensive line, probably the best in the league. It's like Jordan Mailata. You have maybe the greatest center ever in Jason Kelce. You have Lane Johnson at right, the best right tackle in the NFL. One of the great offensive line coaches. I'm forgetting his name in Philly, but he is there. It's like they had stuff in place to be successful. They had also just won the Super Bowl a few years previous to that, like in 2017. And I know it's different, but Howie Roseman was there. It's like there's a culture in Philly and they had tons of leadership. Like Brandon Graham had been there forever at that point. So just to say there was all of this built around him. So just, you can't just take a talented quarterback and inject him because it's the same offensive coordinator from a team that went to the Super Bowl and almost won it against the Chiefs. You can't just assume that it's all going to work out. It's a very different situation. The offensive line isn't the same. The receivers aren't the same. The defense isn't the same. And it's still a young quarterback. And the fact is that Jalen Hurts wasn't asked to do all of this right away. Jalen Hurts did not start until week 14 in his rookie year. That is a very, very long time sitting on the bench and marinating. And that is an entire NCAA season of sitting down and learning behind a quarterback. That is extremely valuable because you don't have to go out and win everything right away. That isn't all on you. You're still figuring it out as a rookie quarterback. You have to, as a quarterback, you have to be able to lead your entire offense. So not only are you being asked to do all the right things, make the right decisions, you have to get everyone say, you have to set your protection. You have to make sure your running back is checking out on, to the flats, to this, to that, or is he picking up protection? Can you decipher what the defense is doing all within a matter of seconds and then still understand what routes your receivers have? And then what is the situation, the down and distance, in terms of moving the ball down the field? There's so much that goes into it. If you sit as long as Jalen Hurts did, that helps you. You've seen the pro who you're sitting behind. You've seen the veteran guy who you're sitting behind do it at the NFL level for 14 weeks. So it's not fresh like it is in week 1 when the bullets are live, right? So to be able to sit has so many benefits. And here are all the quarterbacks who have sat. I mean, Tom Brady famously didn't play until year 2. He's the outlier of outliers, though, so we're not going to consider that. In terms of more recently, like Pat Mahomes didn't start until week 17 because they had Alex Smith. They gave Alex Smith the keys, and they said, look, you're going to take us to the playoffs. You're going to do our thing. The following year is Pat Mahomes' year, but this is your swan song moment. This was the year before he went to Washington. And that was the way to do it. I don't think the Browns are in that situation. They still need to be competitive this year, and they need Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel. And I'm just going to keep saying, like, I think it's Shedeur. Shedeur is my pick. He's the guy who I like more. I said this in the previous episode. It's like, that is why I speak in terms of Shedeur. And actually, Shedeur. I also need to address this. I've been saying Shedeur wrong. I got a lot of people in the comments telling me I'm saying it wrong. I need to study. It's Shedeur. Shedeur. So we're going to get that right. If you've commented already, erase it. I have addressed it. So that's why I'm speaking in terms of Shedeur. But he has to start a lot sooner than week 14 or 17. But Brock Purdy didn't start until week 14. Winds up getting all the way to the NFC Championship. Good chance they could have beat the Eagles if he doesn't have his elbow ripped off from an unblocked pass rusher. Jared Goff didn't start until week 11. Lamar Jackson didn't start until week 11. And as I previously mentioned, Jalen Hurts didn't start until week 14. So like I mentioned, clearly these aren't all one for one because a lot of those teams were in situations where they didn't have to have a guy come in and start right away. It wasn't like those coaches' careers were riding on the line. Like Andy Reid wasn't obligated to play Pat Mahomes because Alex Smith was already there. And they were a good team. But this is the main point, that when you wait, when you can marinate and when you can learn behind a veteran who is established and who is going out there each and every week and putting out a good example for you, that is going to help. So now when it comes to Shedeur, that's why I'm saying week 7. You have Cincinnati week 1, which would be the one game where it's like, if that game was week 6, maybe that's when you start. But to go from Cincinnati to Baltimore to Green Bay and then Pittsburgh week 6, and then I'm forgetting the week 5 game right now. But, the Lions, that is an insane group of just defenses, like forget teams, defenses to come out and have to play against as a rookie quarterback. If you throw a guy into that and they just go 1-6, that on its own, just losing can have a mental toll because you're also going to have all of the fans, the media, everyone being like, oh, this is why Shedeur fell to the 5th round. Oh, this is what the NFL executives saw. When in reality, it's just like, you're just a rookie quarterback. All these guys who I just listed, like most of them, aside from Cam Newton, who I think has the record for a rookie quarterback in terms of their start, like a lot of these guys throw for like 90 yards in their rookie debuts, 180 yards. It's nothing significant. And the expectations are going to be so high for Shedeur that if he steps in and he doesn't perform, it's just going to be an extremely divisive thing. But more importantly than that, in terms of the mental toll, because I think he can handle that. That's the reason why, one of the reasons why I really do like Shedeur, because of his mentality, his confidence, his belief in himself. You don't want that to die. You don't want that to be impacted whatsoever. But the bigger piece is the health aspect. Joe Flacco can stand behind this questionable offensive line, and he can take the hits, and he can maneuver, and he can see over the line really well because he's 6'6" and deliver this ball. He's also going to be able to help lead the young pieces, Quinshaw Judkins, Dylan Sampson. I mean, Cedric Tillman, he's still ascending. He still needs some veteran ability to keep getting him targets, to pull himself up. So then when a rookie steps in, he can help the rookie quarterback because he has that on-field experience that is dependent on a quarterback's performance. Harold Fannin Jr., another guy. You don't want to have a rookie quarterback trying to organize all this because the Browns realistically are going to have 3 rookies on the field potentially at all times on offense. That is a lot, and you need a veteran presence who understands, who's played in the system before, who has worked with Kevin Stefanski to be able to lead and direct and get guys in position. But also, like I mentioned, if you go back to 2023, Deshaun Watson was taking a lot of sacks. As soon as Joe Flacco comes in, those were minimized because some guys just understand how to get rid of the ball better. And to have that as an example, if both Gabriel and Shedeur can be sitting behind and being like, okay, this is how much time it looks like they have against these defenses. Once we get to the lighter part of the schedule, as long as the offensive line lineup stays the same, this is what we can expect for ourselves. If you just walk out and you get walloped right away, that sets you up for a lot of potential pain because, like I mentioned, Justin Fields starts week 3. His first start is against the Browns. He gets sacked 9 times. How do you build forward from that? It wasn't even like you were able to get the ball off to make the mistakes that you were potentially going to make when you just get sacked over and over and over and over and over again. That's weighing on you mentally. It's weighing on you physically because believe me, it hurts just because a guy is tough and he gets up a lot the way Shedeur does, the way Joe Flacco has, the way that a lot of these Iron Man quarterbacks have in their NFL careers. Those things stack up. And if you take them too early on, you start to see ghosts. And seeing ghosts is one of the reasons why Bryce Young wound up getting benched. So he is like a miracle case in the fact that he was able to turn it around and recover from all of that. But that is not the norm whatsoever. So that's kind of where I stand with Shedeur. Wait until week 7. You get Miami at home in mid-October. You don't have to play the Ravens twice in a season. You don't have to play the Steelers twice. You play both of those games are done. Like, you don't have to go to Pittsburgh on the road. Everyone wants to see, and everyone wants Shedeur to have his moment in Pittsburgh and be like, hey, you passed on me. This is more important than spite. This is about actually protecting your investment and then setting them off to get some confidence. And that confidence can mount and build because if you start week 7, if you beat the Dolphins, which is an extremely winnable game, Miami's going to be a bad team this year. The Browns could also be bad too. But if you go out, you win that game, you are building off of that so much. Like if Shedeur started week 1 and he beat Cincinnati, okay, well, it's like week 2, you have the Ravens. It's probably not very likely that you're going to go out and be ultra successful. And if you are, that is like the story of all stories. But we can't treat these people, these quarterbacks, these young men as outliers the way that we view Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or any of those other previous players I mentioned. Those are the legends. These are young men. They need to be protected. They need their mind to be protected, their bodies to be protected, and to be able to step in with a full level of confidence at a point in the season when the games are still very meaningful and you're still in the playoff hunt. Even if the Browns go 1-5 in those opening 6 games, you are still in the conversation for playoffs if you can start to rattle off wins. Is it a tall order? Absolutely. But is it a win-win because you can evaluate your quarterback, plus you might be in position with 2 great first-round draft picks next year because you lose a bunch this season? Absolutely. So it's got to be a healthy balance between evaluating against great competition, which he's still going to have the opportunity to do, and also protecting these guys from ruining their confidence and their bodies. So that's where I'm at with that one. And real quickly, I just want to touch on this. Like I mentioned in the preamble here, the CU Aunties. I said that a few weeks ago, being like, these CU Aunties are going to be a bit of a problem for us in terms of the Browns fan base and the divisiveness, because I'm already seeing it in my comments. I'm seeing people like fighting. It's like turning into stuff that's like not even about football whatsoever. But there is a level of positivity that they bring that is infectious, and I love it. This is the optimistic fan club, after all. Remember, I hate negative Browns fans. I love the belief that they have in Shedeur, and now they're becoming Browns fans. This is my PSA to you. Just let that bleed over to the other parts of this football team and raise the miserable people up out of the ashes. That is my mission to you as these new Browns fans. Don't just be about Shedeur and don't just be Shedeur fans, be Browns fans and try and pull this up. Because I love that. Like, I love the mentality and the belief that they have in Shedeur. So yeah, I didn't know the CU Aunties was like an actual Instagram account and all that. I was just saying it because you're seeing it in the comments of being like, from your auntie. So I guess that's what that is. It's an actual movement. But let's unify this. Let's make this all one big happy family. So guys, just really quickly before we jump into the next segment, I just want to remind you, I forgot to say it at the beginning, we have the audio versions in the description below. So if you're on the go, if you don't want to watch on YouTube, if you want to be able to listen on Spotify, Apple, whatever, link is below. You can check that out. Subscribe to the main RSS feed and you can listen to everything on the go on your phone. But now, let's jump back into things here. So I want to touch on Brock Purdy's contract because, as I mentioned in the intro here, I think the Browns are in somewhat of a similar scenario. Obviously, the Browns made the worst decision in the history of sports, maybe, in signing Deshaun Watson. We can all admit it. We can all say it. We did the Deshaun Watson doomsday clock last year. Like, the writing was on the wall after the Cowboys game. The guy is cooked. His mental ability, it's just, none of it is there. It is the worst contract, arguably, in the history of sports. And in terms of the aftermath of what that contract caused, of like how it just made all these owners have to start paying guys that rate, it's crazy, and like the precedent that it set. So when I'm talking about this, you don't be like, hey, you're a Browns fan, you're talking about Brock Purdy's contract. I am completely aware. And I would take Brock Purdy over Deshaun Watson any day of my life, without a doubt, even with his limitations. But this is the thing now. And in terms of where the 49ers are, they've had a ton of success. It feels like every 5 years, like they go on a Super Bowl run and then they have some dips and some down years and whatnot. Like it started back with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. They lose the Super Bowl to the Ravens. Then 2018, 2019, they lose to the Chiefs with Jimmy Garoppolo. Then last year or 2 years ago, they lose to the Chiefs with Brock Purdy at quarterback. The consistent theme in terms of the Kyle Shanahan regime, I'm blocking out the Jim Harbaugh, was that they had an immense amount of talent surrounding their quarterbacks. And these quarterbacks weren't anything legendary. Regular dudes. Brock Purdy, definitely undersized, but a good athlete. Jimmy G, a pocket passer. People thought he'd be the successor to Tom Brady. It wasn't even close. But they could deliver the ball, they could do it accurately, and they could run Kyle Shanahan's offense. The truth is, though, when you mix in a Deebo Samuel, the offensive line that the 49ers have consistently had later on with Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, even forgetting number 15's name, Jawan, forgetting his name. This is why I need a producer here. But just to say, a lot of really good talent, good offensive line, and then a great defense who can keep you in all these games, keep it tight so you only have to score X amount of points. Juwan Johnson, there we go. When you consider that, a lot of that was due to the fact that you had a quarterback who wasn't on an elite level contract, especially in the case of Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy comes in, he's making like $800,000 a year. He's making nothing. He was Mr. Irrelevant. The final draft pick in the NFL draft comes in, and that was your Super Bowl window. That was your ability to succeed. Once they figured out, okay, like this guy's legit. He put us on this run. We lose in the NFC Championship. Then the following year, you go out and get to a Super Bowl. Dude, it's like, we've got our guy. And then this was going to be the season. Like, even though they lost, like, it wasn't Brock Purdy's fault. The game was tied. They went to overtime. Kyle Shanahan makes a bad decision. The Chiefs get the ball. They go down. They score. Ball game, season. That's not on Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy did more than enough to get his team to that point to be successful. But then when you see what happens the following season, when you've lost some free agents, some guys who were key contributors to your offense and defense, and you see the injuries to Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk having his struggles and Deebo Samuel with his health issues and George Kittle starting to age, and you see the performance that's put out, you're like, okay, is this really worthy of a $50+ million a year contract? Because it's so hard to decipher. Is it the chicken or the egg? Are we successful because of him, or are we successful because his contract is cheap and we can afford all of the talent around him, right? Because similar to what we were talking about before of like guys being erasers, guys being the reason for wins like Joe Burrow, like I would put a very short list of people in that category who are worthy of these contracts, because there's about 10 guys who have these high level contracts that range from Deshaun Watson to like the ultimate top tier price. Because Deshaun ultimately, since he signed his contract, has fallen in those rankings, right? Because he set the precedent, better quarterbacks get paid more, and so on and so forth. But the 5 guys who I would put in there who are worthy of these contracts, obviously Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and either Justin Herbert or Matt Stafford. I think the Herbert conversation is really going to be answered this year. Stafford's at the end of his contract, but it's like, whatever. You make what you make. You've earned it. You've won a Super Bowl. But then the other guys in this top bracket who are like not worth it, really not worth it in my eyes, are Dak Prescott, Tua, Kyler Murray, Deshaun, obviously, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and Jalen Hurts. And not that these guys aren't good, or most of them aren't good, but it's because if they're successful in the cases of Jared Goff and Jalen Hurts, it's because there is so much talent around you. It's hard to not be successful. When you put Saquon Barkley in the backfield, Jalen Hurts, and then you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and the best offensive line in football, and then the best defense, it's like if you put Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, if you put any of those top guys on that team is winning the Super Bowl. It's not because of Jalen Hurts. Then with Jared Goff, it's like any team with David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, that offensive line, and then again, a great defense is going to get to the point that they got to. And this isn't like shade at Jalen Hurts or Jared Goff. I'm just saying, if you exchange any of the top 15 quarterbacks in the league and put them on those teams are probably going to have a relatively similar outcome to what both Goff and Hurts have led their teams to, right? So a lot of the other guys, though, like Kyler Murray, like I mentioned, Dak Prescott, Tua, don't have the luxury of having those amazing offenses and defenses surrounding them. So what are they? They're golden handcuffs. They're guys who are going to keep you relevant for, year in and year out. But are you ever going to have enough to get over the hump? It's like, I don't think Tua ever will. I don't think Kyler Murray ever will. And I've gone in on Kyler Murray where I'm like, he has all the talent in the world, regardless of his size. He throws a beautiful ball. He's so mobile. He does all these things right, but he does not push you over the edge. So when you give him this big contract, you're just signing up for more of the same. Same with Tua. It's like you knew he wasn't elite. You did what was right in the eyes of football fans and Tua fans, but you're never actually going to have that guy do anything to bring you over the edge the way that Tom Brady did when he had no-name receivers across the board throughout the bulk of his career in terms of when he's successful. Just remember, him and Randy Moss never won a Super Bowl together, right? That's what we got to keep in mind. So with all this being said, the real formula is to try, if you don't have one of those elite guys who can win late in their career, who can do it on their second or third contract, it has to be with your rookie deal. Like that's where the Browns are now. Their future, if they move forward with either Gabriel or Shedeur, their window for Super Bowl contention is going to be over the next 3 seasons. It's not going to be once that second deal is done, unless one of these guys turn out to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. So when it comes down to it, it's like, are you going to pay a guy? I mean, that's really what happened with Baker Mayfield too. The Browns are like, are you going to pay this guy? Well, it's like, he's injured. He had one good year and his rookie year was pretty good, but a lot of mediocrity in between. He's not super mature. He doesn't handle the pressure from the media well. We don't really see him uplifting other guys. His play is actually kind of alienating superstars like Odell Beckham Jr., who I can't stand, but it's just like that's the reality of what was going on. They tried to build a team around a guy. He couldn't get them over the hump while he was on his rookie deal, and they weren't willing to do that. And people might be saying, oh, the Browns are kicking themselves. There's a lot of Browns fans who are like, we would have killed for Baker. Look at what happened with the Bucs last year. Out in round one. The year previous, Baker throws the back-breaking interception. And again, I love Baker Mayfield for a lot of reasons. 2020, love that guy forever because of what he did getting the Browns to the playoffs. But this is the point. If he was that good, if he was going to pull you over the edge, if he was going to elevate you, he would have done it in 2020. Maybe he still has a chance to do that in Tampa Bay, but it's like, even with a team with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Cade Otton and now Emeka Egbuka, all of that, Bucky Irving, Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, and again, a solid defense. After all of that, are you going to be able to do it? Or now when you give a guy a big contract and eventually Mike Evans retires and things start to fall off, is he going to keep you that good? So that's a little convoluted in some ways, but the point just kind of remains that with Brock Purdy, they're doing right by him. Great story. Mr. Irrelevant, final pick in the draft, comes out, works hard, and now he's making $50 million a year. It's the American dream. Hard work, persistence pays off. But in the reality of what it's going to take now to compete for Super Bowls, it's not going to be getting huge free agents because you're not going to be able to afford that. It's going to be all reliant on acquiring young talent and hitting on all those guys. When the reality is, when you were at your most competitive, you had already drafted those guys. They were all in their physical peaks and primes. You get a generational player in a trade in Christian McCaffrey, and then you get this young guy on a super duper cheap rookie contract. That's going to be really hard to emulate. So I think this whole concept of like the golden handcuff is you have a guy who's pretty good, but he's not great. I think it's a bad decision to move forward with these people or to give them the deals they want. I would have personally allowed him to test his free agency. You can go move on to another team. But the reality of this is that we made you great. And that was the reality and has been the reality of a lot of players. And it's only the transcendent ones, the Tom Bradys, the Peyton Mannings, those guys who can move on to new locations, new cities, and have that similar level of success. It's not guaranteed. And again, just going back to previously what I was saying, we cannot associate the mentality and ability of the 0.1% to all these players. At the end of the day, when you don't have one of those top guys, you have to be the best team. And sometimes even that isn't enough. If we just go back to Washington and Detroit in the playoffs this year, Detroit was supposed to go to the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, even with all that talent around Jared Goff, they have a couple bad play calls, a couple bad decisions from the quarterback, a couple stupid things don't go their way, and they get beat by Jaden Daniels, who has the greatest rookie quarterback season in the history of the NFL, realistically, because that guy is probably a transcendent talent. That is one of those guys right there. So if you're not Jaden Daniels, you're not one of these guys, the success of a football team is going to be so heavily tied to your ability to sign and pay the best people around a young quarterback. And like I mentioned, only the best of the best, those top 5 guys, are going to be able to do it on a second, third, fourth contract. And that's a rarity. So finally, I wanted to touch on 2 small things, because if you hadn't seen, the Caleb Williams story came out. Seth Wickersham has his new book coming out. I think it's called American Goliath or something, American Kings, whatever it is. It's his book about quarterbacks, and he talks about plenty different ones throughout history from different stages, NFL legends, current NFL players, NCAA top prospects, high school prospects. I haven't read it, just the articles. I don't even know if it's out yet. But basically what was leaked in these teasers the stories that the journalists are sitting on is that Caleb Williams and his dad were trying to do whatever they could to circumvent the Bears from drafting him number 1 overall last year. They talked about maybe going to the UFL. They talked about forcing a trade to go from Chicago to Minnesota, because everyone points to the Mannings making San Diego basically give up Eli to go to New York because they didn't want to go to San Diego. Everyone always refers back to that. But this is the thing that people kind of fail to understand. Archie Manning was a great NFL quarterback, even though they played for the terrible Saints back in the day. It's like they were NFL royalty. Peyton was already drafted number 1 overall by the Colts. It's like they had a lot of pull versus a new generation coming in trying to make these demands. So that's one thing that people need to understand. Like Archie Manning had pull, they had ability, they could do these things. Right or wrong, it's just the way it happened. But that is not the point of what we're talking about here. The point is that Caleb Williams and his dad tried to do this to make something happen. And then the weird thing, this is what stood out to me. It's like, why would you share this information on the record with a journalist? It's going in a book now. Didn't they know it was going to get published? And this just kind of like adds to another mark against Caleb Williams in terms of like his public perception and what he's been dealing with coming into the NFL. Because I was really trying to think about it. I cannot think of an NFL draft prospect in my lifetime who was more disliked before entering the draft than Caleb Williams. And this is where I want the Shedeur fan groups to remember. It's like there's no collusion or colluding or conspiracies in the NFL. If you're perceived to be a great talent, you're going to get drafted. If there's other things, absolutely, there's off-field stuff that you have to consider. But ultimately, it's like if you are elite of the elite, all those things are going to be ignored. And that is no more true than with Caleb Williams. Because Caleb Williams, like I mentioned, I think probably the most disliked guy. Like, and it's fully understandable. The guy, and I'm sorry if you're progressive, whatever, you can do whatever you want to do. But when a starting quarterback paints his nails, that is looked at a certain way, especially by your teammates. Because guys, this is what, again, you don't understand. Offensive linemen will piss themselves. They will puke. They will shit their pants. They will do anything. They're disgusting, big old hogs. It's like they are the toughest of the tough, the unsung heroes. If they're looking at some young, entitled, highest paid guy on the team and he's got painted nails, I don't know. Again, if you have the talent, they will ignore all of that. But when you come out and you get sacked 68 times in a season and you do all these questionable things, people are going to hold their own beliefs against you or feelings against you regarding the thing that you're doing. And again, I could care less. I'm just saying the reality of being in a football locker room. That's what it's like. But Caleb Williams, before we even get there, it's like we want to talk about, or the detractors want to talk about Shedeur. Oh, he's only played for one guy his whole career. Okay, whatever. High school, Deion's his head coach, whatever. He goes to college. That's when it really matters in terms of your evaluation and whatnot. He follows him from Jackson State to Colorado, plays for his dad the whole time. Caleb Williams did the same thing. Plays at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, goes to USC, stays with Lincoln Riley for 2 seasons there. He was there the whole time with the same guy, the guy who's actually calling the plays too. It wasn't like I don't think Deion Sanders is calling plays. I think Pat Shurmur was their offensive coordinator. He's calling the plays. It's like, it's different. It's very different. So Caleb Williams plays in one system with one quarterback. His whole career does that. Then he's crying in the stands with his mom. She's blocking his face so people can't see him. He's still crying on national television in his mommy's arms in the stands. It's like, what are you doing there, man? Imagine if Shedeur came off the sidelines, found his mom in the crowd, and was crying because Colorado lost another game. That does not scream starting quarterback to me. That does not scream leader of men to me. So you have all of that. And then this is where it gets a little bit more controversial and confusing, because in a similar way with Caleb Williams and his dad, Carl Williams, coming out to say like, oh, we want to protect him basically. Like we don't want to go to the Bears because they are a graveyard for quarterbacks, which is undeniable and true, especially considering the examples we just went through. It's like, look at Justin Fields, comes out, first start, gets sacked 9 times. It's like history repeats itself. Caleb Williams was the most sacked quarterback last year, got sacked 68 times. So it's their reservations and their worries came to fruition. They were true. They didn't want him to go to a place where he wasn't going to get taken care of, where it was going to be dysfunctional. His head coach gets fired during the season, and he gets sacked the most times by any quarterback all year. It's like they were right to feel the way that they did. And with Shedeur and Dillon, early on when they really thought he was a lock to be a top 10 pick, top 5 pick, they wanted to dictate the terms on where he might go. That is not a bad thing. What both Carl Williams did and Deion Sanders did is not a bad thing. That is what a good father should do. You should want the best for your kid. You should want the best situation for them to succeed, because what fun is it to watch these guys go out there, your sons, and just get the shit beat out of them every single week, week in and week out. It's like, who would want to see that? Every good father would have done what they did. They would have explored every option to make sure that he's in the best situation to succeed. So that is not the thing that we should be faulting them for. And for anyone who is, it's like, put yourself in their shoes. If you're just going to sign think about how much you hate other teams and how much you don't respect other teams. Now imagine your kid, with all the talent in the world, who could go and play anywhere, is going to be told to go to a team that is poorly run. Their head coach is probably going to get fired soon, and they have a bad offensive line. It would be heartbreaking. That would be very difficult to watch. And anyone who says like, oh yeah, sign my kid up and I'm going to let him get destroyed week in and week out, and there's nothing we can do about it, but he's making money, so it shouldn't matter. It's like, that's not the way your mind works. You're thinking about his physical health, his confidence, all these things. So that's why I want to say that. It's like, I don't fault them for any of this. It's just the way in which they went about it. The big fault against Shedeur was his confidence, or perceived overconfidence, and an alleged bad interaction and meeting between him and the Giants. Those are the only real things that you can pin against him. With Caleb, it's like you have the painted nails and the pink phone case and like wearing lip gloss. You have all those things, which again, you might say it doesn't matter. In the context of football, it does. That's just the reality of it. I'm very sorry. You have that. Then saying that you should get equity in the team who drafts you, which is like billions of dollars that you're talking about here for a player who might not even work out. That level of entitlement is unbelievable. And that's where it goes beyond to this point of like what Carl Williams, Caleb Williams are trying to do. It's like, guy, I don't know where your head is at thinking that you can demand something like that, but that is unreal that you think that that is the way the world works in the NFL. So you have that. And then like, again, the crying in the sands, all these things that you could point to and be like, that is not a first overall pick. That is not a franchise quarterback. This is a guy with his head up his ass who just loves himself and thinks he's a lot better than he is. You can easily point to Caleb Williams and be like, he is way more of a walking red flag than Shedeur Sanders. Here's the difference though. Caleb Williams does things on the field that Shedeur cannot do. The way he can move, the way he can evade the pass rush. Honestly, his arm strength is like really far and away better than Shedeur Sanders. As a physical, talented prospect, what he did in college, winning the Heisman, it is not close. And that doesn't mean that Caleb Williams is going to have a better NFL career. It doesn't mean that he's even going to have a good NFL career in himself. Like Shedeur could absolutely go out and be a legend. He could be who knows? But there's no guarantee that Caleb Williams is going to be this all-star guy. But from what they saw on the tape, he was clearly a transcendent talent. He was clearly extremely talented. It's why he won the Heisman. It's why he was so highly coveted. And that's why they took him. They could ignore his dad requesting that a team doesn't draft him. They could ignore him thinking that he's deserving of equity in the team who picked him. They could overlook the way he carried himself, painting his nails, doing all these things, and how that might affect a locker room and his teammates' belief in him, because they're like, the play will outshine all of those things, which it will if he is that talent, if he can take this big step going into 2025. But that's a lot of ifs. But at the end of the day, that is the point that I'm trying to make here. There wasn't some grand conspiracy to have Shedeur be, I'm seeing people comment, humiliation ritual. They made him drop to that point. Guys, if it was consensus, first of all, he would have been the number 1 overall pick, because people weren't even that locked in on Cam Ward. If it was that certain, he would have been the number 1 overall pick, and he easily would have been a top 5 pick. There would have been teams trying to trade up to get him. They didn't view it that way. It doesn't mean he's not a good player. Doesn't mean he's not going to be a good or a great player, but that is just the fact. When you are so talented, people will overlook everything. It's like Mike Green, the pass rusher who Baltimore took, had 2 sexual assault allegations against him. Guy gets taken in the 2nd round by Baltimore on the heels of the Justin Tucker controversy that happened. So when you're great, everything is overlooked. I think Shedeur Sanders is a very good player. I think he has a very bright future ahead of him, but he just wasn't at that level, and that's why it happened. So I just saw the Caleb Williams stuff, and I thought that it was an important thing to touch on, because it's not a 1-for-1 situation. And if Caleb Williams had the on-field tape that Shedeur had, it's like he probably would have been in a similar situation because of all the off-field distractions and questions and whatnot. So that was just something that I thought was important. It's not this big collusion thing or anything like that. It's just ultimately on the tape. But now you get to write your own story going forward. So finally, one last thing I wanted to touch on, because I talked about this on Patreon a couple weeks ago, but it wasn't discussed here. The JOK injury. JOK on the PUP list, physically unable to perform. He's going to miss all of 2025. And honestly, man, it kind of feels like the writing's on the wall. I don't want to speak this over him. Like, I really do pray for his health and his recovery, but it just doesn't seem great for him right now. It's not quite Ryan Shazier territory where he's gone immobile. Like, he's up, he's walking. That's a major blessing in and of itself, that he can move and he's of sound mind and body. But that's in terms of being like a civilian. In terms of being an NFL linebacker, I don't know if it's ever going to happen again. I still remember the hit when he hit Derrick Henry against the Ravens, and he kind of just went stiff. It's like, it didn't look good. He got his head way too involved in the play. If you're a young player playing football, guys, keep your head out of the game. Only hit what you can see. The fact is, he's out for this year, and it doesn't look good for his future going forward. That is why the Browns took Carson Schwessinger, 33rd overall, first pick of the 2nd round. And I think that most people could put 2 and 2 together of like, that's why. Like, it tells you a lot of what they know about JOK. But aside from the heartbreak of the JOK situation, because he's such a transcendent talent, like so instinctual, such a heat-seeking missile, so good at what he does. Like, Carson Schwessinger, I think, has a lot of that within him as well. Maybe not to the same level in terms of the explosiveness, but as a very versatile, high-impact, instinctual player, I think they got a very good one. So I think it's the perfect sort of replacement. In terms of replacing a unique guy, this is kind of the person who you would want to step in, someone with a similar skill set. And I really think Carson Schwessinger, from the start, I've talked about him. I think him and Harold Fannin are going to be the 2 guys who help this team. You know, Judkins, absolutely, because he's going to be getting most of the carries, but he's still going to have to split with Dylan Sampson a lot. Like, I think that Carson Schwessinger, because he's stepping in for an injured guy, is going to have like the most immediate impact, and it's going to be felt. And because of that, I really do think that he's in position to be a defensive rookie of the year dark horse. Right now, he's like plus 4,000. So if you put $5 on him, you're going to win 200. And again, I'm not advocating for betting or anything right now. I put some small bets down on my personal side. I'm never trying to promote it to you. Again, I don't have any deals or sponsorships with any gambling companies or anything. I'm just talking about this from like a Vegas perspective. I think that he is a dark horse where he could absolutely step out and do this, because if you really look at his tape, the fact that this guy went from a walk-on to being the first pick in the second round is pretty astounding. And I think he has a lot of JOK to him in terms of the instincts and diagnosing plays really fast, but also like Luke Kuechly. If he could get a little bit more size, then he can be that 3-down backer each and every week. And I really do hope that he becomes a captain of this defense, because Myles Garrett has the C on his chest. Denzel Ward does, but those guys are just so good that you have to do it. You have to give it to them. They've been here long enough. And not saying that they're not good leaders, but there's something about when a linebacker wears the C on his chest. He's that communication point between the defensive line and the secondary. He's the quarterback of the defense. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm looking for our next big time guy who can just really be the linebacker that I feel like the Browns haven't had in my lifetime. Like, they've had good ones, but not the legend, not the guy who is that focal point of the defense who you really got a game plan for. JOK was becoming that, and I really do hope he could come back, because a guy like Schwessinger and JOK together, oh my, like, imagine that. But that might be wishful thinking at this point. So all prayers up to him. I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, I really do think Carson Schwessinger is a great dark horse pick. If you're going to pick a guy to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, considering the situation he's walking into, it does look pretty decent for him. So just want to throw that out there. But with that being said, my people, thank you all so much for watching the show. If you want to support, buy a shirt at pumpkinhead.shop. If you like the hat, you can't buy it, but maybe throw it in the comments and we'll do a short run or something. And stay tuned, because I'm going to be building out the optimisticfanclub.com, that platform beyond Patreon that can be articles, podcasts, more stuff, not just the Browns, but the NFL in general. And make sure to listen, subscribe to the podcast feed. You can listen to the audio exclusively there and not have to watch on YouTube. So thank you guys. We will see you in the next one, probably on Friday. Later.